couple of questions for you, gentlemen. Great presentation. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to all of these questions, but I want to get to as many as we can and get your thoughts on this. Both of you, please feel free to let us know. Yugo, we'll start with you. What could be the reasons behind the unsuccessful data modernization program?
So from a legal perspective, it's not preparing. Again, not knowing what data you have, not knowing the path that the data is traveling through, and also not making sure why you're even collecting the data, the purpose. Because if you fail to do that, and if you just migrate into a modern system, it's number one, you're using a more efficient system, but you may have been able to make it even more lean, right? Now you have a system that's, you're using analytics, but you're using analytics on a certain data set that you may not, as a company not need, or it may not be proper under certain privacy laws. So that's a big issue. And if you have personal data, you want to make sure that you want to have certain obligations on the cloud company providing you with the service. And although most do provide you with that information, if you're not aware of the data and if you're not aware of the issues and the risks, you might agree to an agreement that when something happens, you are liable for, all the breaches or all the information that is locked up or not being able to access your cloud system.
What's interesting is from a technical perspective, the answer to that question is very similar. You have to understand your data. So there's what I call kicking the can down the road, is where, okay, I have a SQL server that's a mess. I'm going to move it to Azure because then I've modernized it. Well, you really haven't, because you still have that pile of Legos that are all munched together. So if you think of that infographic where it goes from different states, as you're preparing to migrate, you want to think about, okay, I now have the ability to save pretty much as much data as I want. What do I want to save? What do I want it to look like? And what transformation does it need to go through for it to make sense at the other end? And that's all, whoever you get involved with helping you do your data modernization, that will be part of the early meetings that you have with them. What do you want to, why do you want to move it? What do you want to move? And what's best for that migration? Of course, all the security stuff and legal stuff that Yugo had mentioned.
What are some of the critical factors organizations should consider when preparing for that long-term data management strategy?
Critical factors is, again, understanding your data and doing a deep dive into your data to determine what's the best cloud-based service for that data. Do I stay with putting all of my data in a relational database? Do I start cutting out some of that to go into either data lake or a NoSQL store? And what's my end goal? What do I want? How do I want to present the results to my leadership team? Obviously, getting out of the cap expenditure model to an operational expenditure model is something that's very appealing. So yeah, I don't have to buy and maintain equipment. It's now in Microsoft or AWS's hands to make sure that that data is, or those services are up and running and the care and feeding, etc. But again, that's akin to kicking the can down the road. Just moving my services into Azure without doing any modernization of the data itself is going to be bad. And for ongoing, you want to make sure that you, as part of your data modernization path, you keep up to date on technologies that are coming. So as I mentioned in my presentation, AI and cognitive services are, in 3 years, they're going to be generating what it was 10, 20% of the data. That's not going to go down. So you want to start making sure that you're ready for that. But I will give a warning. I guess a warning might be too strong of a term, but with machine learning and AI, there are certain ethical requirements that you must have in place in order to leverage those responsibly.